at such short range will the debris be almost as lethal as the original missile. This is the only device credited with successfully foiling an Exocet attack during the entire war. It's a chaff launcher. It's not a missile. Chaff rockets burst near the ship, producing a cloud of fine aluminium needles. These needles reflect radar waves. And on an enemy's radar screen, the lower ship which has just fired chaff becomes completely obscured by a cloud of false targets. On the 30th of May, HMS Avenger was attacked not just by an Exocet, but also 4 Skyhawk bombers. The British believe chaff saved the ship from the missile.
We started off by firing a pattern of chaff, and we turned very rapidly inside it, slowed right down, so that because of the direction of the wind, I didn't want to get outside the pattern of chaff that the ship had sown. And we stayed there, trying as far as possible to remain inconspicuous amongst all these chaff clouds. Once we had the missiles coming in, then we fired another chaff pattern on top of the one we'd already sown, and that presented quite a large number of chaff clouds for the missile to guess at.
On this radar screen, the northern ship is HMS Exeter with its Sea Dart anti-aircraft missile. To the south is Avenger, which has just fired chaff. The attack is developing from the bottom of the screen. This reconstruction shows what the British believe happened. Captain White recalls the action.
Round Avenger, the chaff pattern is now blooming, and for the first time in the wake of the Super-Étendard aircraft, you can just make out 4 faint echoes of Skyhawk bombers coming in. These have attracted the Sea Dart missile from HMS Exeter to the north, now passing the chaff blooms to the west of Avenger, tracking towards the pattern of 4 Skyhawk aircraft. It's just passing the Exocet missile, which is going north towards Avenger and her chaff blooms, and you'll see the Sea Dart missile there engaging the northwestern of the Skyhawk aircraft. It splashes, leaving 3, which press on their attack. Meanwhile, the Exocet missile continues towards Avenger, curving slightly to the east and homing in on some of the chaff clouds to the east of the frigate. You see it passing through the chaff now, missing the frigate, and you'll see it come out the other side and splash harmlessly to the east of Exeter. Meanwhile, the 3 Skyhawk aircraft are going through the barrage of anti-aircraft fire put up by Avenger's gun. That claims one of them. The other 2 passed overhead, dropped their bombs, missed, I'm happy to report, and then wheeled off sensibly to Argentina.
Originally developed in World War II, chaff had an unexpectedly good war in the Falklands. Even so, current chaff launchers are not very sophisticated. In particular, precise positioning of the chaff cloud is difficult. Controlling the chaff cloud depends on fuse time, and the only way to adjust that is by hand on deck. Not easy at the best of times. Since the war, Plessy have developed what they term seduction mode chaff. A computer in the operations room would take into account all these factors in order to time and place the chaff cloud precisely. The crucial decision on fuse time is calculated automatically. The computer decides when to fire. The aim is to do what was never possible during the war, to break the hold of a missile whose radar has locked onto a ship. A correctly placed chaff cloud should be able to seduce the missile away from the ship. Precise timing and placing are vital. The computer can show what the consequences would be of an error of just a quarter of a second in the fuse time. The chaff rocket explodes after 1.5 seconds. The chaff cloud is represented by a bar, and this starts to float into the rectangle representing the area in which the missile's radar is looking for a target. At this stage, the missile is already locked onto the ship. The wind blows the edge of the chaff bar into the area swept by the missile's radar. The center of interest moves off the ship. But because the timing was wrong, the chaff cloud leaves the radar rectangle too early. The missile's interest reverts to the ship. This is what it looks like from the missile's point of view. The chaff cloud hooks its attention, but can't hold it. The system's test will, unfortunately, be the next war. In the Falklands, the British lost twice as many ships close in to land as in open ocean. The Navy faced a completely different set of problems in the confined waters around San Carlos.
From a landing point of view, it was ideal because the beaches were of the right gradient and the right texture and were sheltered. On the other hand, our greatest problem, as is widely known, was the enclosed circumstances in which we had to deal with this quite intense air threat. Our excellent radars were almost useless in that very confined operating area. Reflections from land cluttered the picture to an unacceptable degree, so that really all you could see was a sort of rice pudding effect on your radar screen, which made it very difficult to see aircraft targets, which were flying low, round corners, and coming at you from only 2 or 3 miles notice and seen visually from the bridge.
On the first day of the landings, HMS Ardent caught the worst of these attacks from Argentina.
Éramos 6 aviones en total, 6 aviones Skyhawk A4Q, separados en 2 secciones reforzadas de 3 y 3, distanciadas 10 minutos una de otra.
Well, the first attack was by Navy A4s of the big heavy attacks. And indeed, I was talking to the ship's company on the ship's main broadcast, because it's a way of keeping the chaps down below aware of what's going on. And we hadn't been able to detect them on radar. And just as I was talking to the ship's company, we saw the Navy A4s, because they're painted white and much more easy to see.
La fragata intuyó, el comandante intuyó el ataque, puesto que al momento de cruzar los aviones por encima, estaba desarrollando toda su velocidad tratando de ganar aguas abiertas, es decir, una actitud lógica del comandante naval.
And I turned away from land to give my weapons as much opportunity as possible, and also into wind as fast as I could, because this gives a high crossing rate, which causes more of a problem for the chaps to aim.
Cuando mi mira cruzó por el blanco, lancé mis bombas y comencé las maniobras evasivas, imaginando que desde la fragata estaban saliendo los misiles.
And they dropped retard bombs, and I think it was a chap called Philippi was in the first one, and 2 of his bombs hit me and went off, destroying my Seacat system. Indeed, I looked aft, and the Seacat launcher, which is quite a heavy piece of kit, had gone about 100 feet up in the air and was wobbling around up there, which was slightly bad news. We then received an attack from daggers. It was a confused attack, and we're still not sure whether it was 4 or 5 of them. Now, they didn't actually hit us with any bombs that went off, but they did hit us with some that didn't go off, but a lot of them sort of bounced through the masts and things. Then we had a final attack by more Navy A4s, and they again hit us with, I think it was 5 bombs which went off down aft. I think overall we were hit by 11 bombs.
Ardent sank just a few hours later. Its 1960s weapons and radar had proved inadequate so close to land.